You hear it all the time, right? That the economy is recovering, things are looking up. But what if the biggest risks are actually hiding in plain sight? Today, we're going to dig into some pretty alarming signals that suggest the global financial system might be way more fragile than any of us think. So, let's take a look at the evidence. Okay, let's just dive right into this because we're starting with a pretty stark warning from someone who definitely knows what he's talking about. Now, that quote, that isn't from some random commentator on cable news. That's from Jean-Claude Trichet. This is the man who was literally steering Europe's central bank when the whole system almost collapsed back in 2008. So when he says we're in a worse position now, yeah, it's probably a good idea to pay attention. To really let that sink in, just think back to 2008 for a second. Remember the Lehman Brothers collapse? It was like pulling a loose thread that unraveled the entire global economy. It set off a worldwide meltdown, a brutal recession, and massive bailouts that basically put the whole system on life support. And Trichet is warning us that today, the ground we're standing on is even shakier. So what's got him so worried? Well, this warning isn't just about numbers in a spreadsheet. It's happening at a time when tensions around the world are getting hotter and hotter, and that's just adding a ton of fuel to the fire. And you can see the friction is pretty much everywhere. We're not just talking about one or two little hotspots. You've got trade talks between super close allies like the US and Canada just falling apart. You have US warships conducting so-called exercises right off the coast of Venezuela. And of course, the big one, the constant strategic rivalry between the US and China. Every single one of these adds another layer of risk and unpredictability to the whole system. But where things get really interesting and maybe a little scary is when we move past the headlines and look at the cold, hard numbers that are driving all this anxiety. Let's start with a number that's, well, it's almost impossible to really wrap your head around. The U.S. national debt has blown past $38 trillion. I mean, what does that even mean? A trillion seconds is over 31,000 years. We are talking about a truly mind-boggling amount of debt. But you know what? It's not just the size that's shocking. It's the speed. As you see here, another $1 trillion gets piled on top roughly every 100 days. The pace is actually getting faster. It really is like a runaway train that's just picking up more and more speed. This chart does a fantastic job of putting that debt into perspective. On the left, that little bar, that's the value of all the gold the U.S. government has in its vaults, about $1 trillion. And on the right, that's the $38 trillion mountain of debt. It's not even in the same league. Okay, let's take it even one step further. What if you could magically gather every single ounce of gold that has ever been mined in all of human history? The total value would be somewhere around $30 trillion. And even that would not be enough to pay off America's national debt. Now, this level of debt isn't just an American problem. It's creating a kind of quiet panic among the people managing money all over the world. You can actually see the panic in their actions. In just the last 2 years, central banks across the globe have slammed the emergency button, cutting interest rates an incredible 312 times. That's a 25-year record for rate cuts. It shows a level of desperation we really haven't seen since the depths of the 2008 crisis. They are flooring the accelerator, trying anything and everything to keep their economies from sliding into a major global recession. So with all this uncertainty swirling around, how are the big players, the nations, the major institutions, reacting? Well, they're basically digging financial trenches and running for cover. And here's what that running for cover looks like. Huge, strategic moves into physical stuff you can actually hold. Take India, for example. In a single day, they bought a jaw-dropping 1,000 tons of silver. Just to give you a sense of how massive that is, that single purchase was 5% of the entire world's silver production for a whole year. This is not just a company buying supplies. This is a nation making a strategic move to secure real, tangible wealth. And India is definitely not alone. We're seeing this shift happening everywhere at the institutional level. This chart basically shows you what's going on inside central bank vaults. They're holding fewer US dollars and are actively stockpiling more and more physical gold. It's a very deliberate pivot away from paper currency. This global rush for physical metal is creating actual bottlenecks in the real world. Just listen to this report from a major dealer. There is a severe shortage. Refineries are so overwhelmed, they are only accepting pure 999 silver and turning away everything else. The supply chain is literally being squeezed to its breaking point. Okay, so we've talked about warnings from the top, we've seen the insane national debt, and we see these big institutions making their moves. But what does any of this actually mean for you? Why should you care? The source material we're looking at today uses this really powerful image for the times we're in. It says we're surrounded by nebula clouds. It's this idea of being in a state of complete unpredictability, where the future is just dangerously unclear. And it's in this fog of uncertainty that some of the world's biggest financial players are making some truly bold predictions. Look at JP Morgan. They're not just forecasting a little bump in the price of gold. They are predicting a massive repricing, possibly hitting $8,000 an ounce by 2028. And this right here is the most important thing to understand about that forecast. It's not that gold is suddenly becoming more valuable. The key is that the value of paper money, like the US dollar, is expected to fall off a cliff. To put it simply, it's gonna take a lot more dollars to buy the same exact ounce of gold. This is really a prediction about your money losing its buying power. And this is exactly why assets like silver, which people have always called poor man's gold, are also seeing a huge surge in interest. It's seen as a more accessible way for regular people to protect their savings, especially when the price tag on gold starts getting out of reach. So when you put all the pieces together, the warnings from former top bankers, the skyrocketing debt, the quiet panic pushing institutions toward hard assets, it paints a picture of a system that is under a tremendous amount of stress. And that really leaves all of us with one final and pretty crucial question to think about. As this financial storm keeps gathering on the horizon, where are you going to find shelter?